just kind of watching a lot of white identity extremism occur and not be labeled as such. But otherwise, things are great.
Do black men have more power than black women?
Of course they do.
Why are black people so weak that they allow this to happen?
Well, I wouldn't say the question would be why are black people so weak. The question would be is why is white supremacy so diabolical and savage? Like I got time for that. Hey guys, I wanted to come on here and provide an update to this story involving the plantation bucks and Ed Buck. There have been a number of different articles and information pieces that have come out, and so I wanted to go over some of those things. And I noticed that now the more this information is being revealed, the less you see black men on YouTube actually talking about this situation, doing stories, and 9 times out of 10 these stories and the content is actually on Patreon. And so if you want to see those stories, you can come on to Patreon, subscribe, become a patron. All I ask is that you contribute $2, at least $2 a month. That's a very small amount. Everyone has that. There are already some people supporting it, as you can see, and I thank those people profuse. And that's really interesting because we know if the genders were reversed, and this was some big scandal involving black women, and even if it was like a lesbian ring or anything, we already know how that narrative would go. We know that they will be talking about this. They will be using this as evidence of black women's inherent lust for whiteness and the fact that they're, selling out and doing things more than black men. But now that you have black men here engaging in this situation, which this isn't nothing new. I told you guys about thug hunters. I told you how much plantation buckery was going on during slavery, how some of it was willing. And I've told you guys about the pathology that black men have now as it applies to being the worshipers of all things white. They have been in history and still are the main persons in our community who have a fetish for whiteness, and that is for both white males and females. When they go outside of their race, they primarily date white females and they worship and try to mimic white males. This is why there's a lot of discord between black men and black women, because rather than forming their own identity and being who they are as a man, they're too busy trying to mimic white male masculinity and what it means to be a man as established by white men. This is why when you see stories like this, because I've already showed data that shows when you do have incidences of black men being gay and they go outside of their race, they're primarily dating white men. So you also have a lot of porn fetish websites that involve black men being sexually degraded by both white women and white men. So this is just something that they've been doing. This is something that they choose to not highlight. You even have gay for pay websites. Like, that's what Thug Hunters is. Thug Hunters is a gay for pay website where they get these alleged straight black men and supposedly pay them money to engage in gay sexual activities with white men. Now, the thing of it is a lot of people are going to say there is no gay for pay or whatever. If you're doing sexual acts with a man, then you're gay. And I do agree with that. But you also have a lot of gay black men in the black community pretending that they're straight and having sexual relationships with black women as well. That's one of the reasons why the HIV rate in the black female community is so high, because you have them who will go engage in this behavior and then go and engage in relationships with black women as well. But anyway, there was another man that came forward, and his name in here is Jermaine Gagnon. He's 28. He did an interview with the Daily Mail, and he talked about how he was going to be the next victim of Ed Buck before, this current victim that was just came out and exposed. There's a video here that I want to play, and then I'm going to go through here and go through some of the...
We begin with a Daily Mail TV exclusive. Third victim. For the second time in less than 2 years, a young black man has been found dead at the home of a prominent Democratic donor, Ed Buck. Now a man who dated Buck in 2018 is speaking out in Daily Mail's senior reporter Louise Boyle, saying that it could have been him.
I was meant to die at Ed Buck's. I was supposed to be the second person dead at Ed Buck's house.
Jermaine Gagnon is terrified. He sees the shocking similarities between the deaths of two black men and his alleged experience with Ed Buck.
He has a type. Young, black, handsome.
The 28-year-old Minnesota native says he met Buck on the dating site Adam for Adam. Their first date, May 2018.
When you first come into the house, you come out of your clothes and you put on his clothes.
Gagnon gave us this video. That's a white mattress on the floor of the living room, and you can see Buck wearing white long johns and a red t-shirt.
We smoked a little bit of crystal meth.
The drugs got more intense.
He said, "Have you ever tried point?" And I'm like, "What's a point?" He's like, "An injection. You inject crystal meth into your vein." He injected my arm.
Gagnon says the drug made him fly into a rage. Buck kicked him out of his apartment. Gagnon was paid between $200 and $250. Buck has rubbed shoulders with high-profile Democrats, donating money to Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. But eyebrows were raised in July 2017 when 26-year-old Jamel Moore was found dead of a drug overdose in Buck's apartment. No criminal charges were filed. Now, activists are calling for Buck's arrest, gathering outside his West Hollywood home after a second black man in his 50s was found dead.
Mr. Buck had nothing to do with either individual who passed away.
But Jermaine Gagnon says something must be done before there's a third victim. Daily Mail TV has repeatedly reached out to Buck's attorney for comment about the allegations made by Jermaine Gagnon, but has received no response. After this second death at Ed Buck's home, homicide detectives say that they are going to review the 2017 fatal overdose of Jamel Moore.
Now, you guys saw that video, so you saw what he was describing, and there's more details to this too. And again, it's the reason I'm doing this update is because there's more details and information that is being ignored by black male YouTube content creators. And this right here shows the lack of balance and the real intent that they have when they talk about these swirling situations. Because if you are just against swirling, which we know a lot of them aren't, then you will talk about all of these degenerate situations that came out that were similar to this. But rather than do that, what they'll do is they'll focus on black women with white men because they are very insecure and they have an inferiority complex. So basically, when a black man sees any situation involving a black woman with a white man, understand that he's going to have a negative attitude about that because subconsciously that is a manifestation and a reinforcement of his inferior position in society. If you really had black men possessing the level of self-esteem that they feel like they have, and if they weren't actually reduced to the worship of white men to a greater extent than anything that they could ever seek to prove on behalf of black women, you wouldn't even see situations like this. I mean, look at this. You have them literally being treated like plantation bugs, being laid out on dirty mattresses, being injected with drugs. Like, this is just extreme slumming. Yet they'll sit here and talk about black women with white men and say, okay, well, they'll sit here and say, oh, well, black women, when they get with white men, they're getting with the lowest of the low. But you're literally sitting here, and it doesn't really matter whether these are gay or straight. Again, you have straight black men in relationships with white women, and they're basically getting treated the same. So it's no different. The white women dominate them in the relationship just the way that the white man does. That's why they're not even able to maintain or acknowledge their blackness. And most of the time, they probably don't want to anyway because they're trying to escape it. But this wealthy white man literally have them slumming on mattress pads on the floor, when if he would have just took them to a roach motel, he would have gave them better accommodations at a roach motel. But that's only to turn up dead. But yet you have them, black male YouTube content creators, ignoring this. They're relatively not talking about it. When the story first dropped, then they start saying, oh, this is a new Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer 2.0. No, this is black men doing what they've been doing, slumming. They've been slumming. This is just a high-profile situation because it's a high-profile person involved in it. But how many of them are slumming with just regulars? sucking dick, shooting up drugs, getting a little chump change over it, not coming up with the white man any more than they would come up with white women. This is why nothing in society changes, because they put themselves on this low level. This is basically animalistic. What's the difference between them and crack whores, basically? Let's get to some more information, though. And this isn't to really say that, you know, these men deserve to die. I don't think any of the men deserve to die. However, when you put yourself in certain situations, you should only expect certain results. And the situations that they put themselves in is conducive to this, because ultimately you just have a lot of people who have you have a lot of people within the dominant society who have a fetish for not just for black women, but for black men as well. Black men are highly sexually fetishized. They always have been. So when you have a man who is wealthy and gay, he can have access to his fetish, which is black men. And there's too many of them who are willing. Like, this man probably didn't have to look very far at all to find black men to smut out and engage in all of this degeneracy with. But the second black man who died in his home was, he certainly was identified. And it looks like he was a 55-year-old former gay porn star. Okay, now even if you look at gay porn that involves black men, it is interracial. It is fetishized. It really is. Like, this is the thing. They've been being used as sexual mules, and none of the men in the black community want to talk about their willingness to be put in these positions, specifically with the white male that they constantly complain about. This is just, and then to be getting tossed $250, you might as well just go get on the block and troll for regular dudes. You're up here with a wealthy Democrat donor, so he has some political power and pull. They're sitting here slumming with this man. You can have him take you to a 5-star hotel and give you some better treatment. It's interesting. It says Dean, who worked at Saks Fifth Avenue, was a gay porn star named Hole Hunter and was active in the industry from 2007 to 2016. It's interesting that his name would be Hole Hunter. Yet all on Thug Hunters, what do you see? A bunch of black men being smutted out by white males. But nobody wants to talk about this. And I think I'm going to have to do a live stream dedicated to this, just to talk about the prevalence of this. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I'm tired of hearing about black women being called bed wenches. Now, I don't swear on that Rahab sword, don't have a dog in this fight, but I don't like hypocrisy either. I don't like double standards either. And I do notice a number of different black men all over social media, YouTube being one of the main outlets, in which they'll sit around talking about black women and white men and all this other stuff, but they'll adamantly ignore stuff like this because they know how this makes them look. Not only are you being dominated in society, but then when you sit up here and you get with people who actually have some political power and pull to change your situation, rather than leveraging yourself, you become a plantation bug. I mean, $250, you couldn't be more insulting to slum on a dirty mattress and get injected with meth for $250. And this is in California, so you might as well be just handed a $20 bill at that point. This is low. It shows how low they are. Now, the black man in question is this black man, Timothy Dean. And he's originally from Florida, but he had been living not far from Buck's apartment in West Hollywood, California, okay? Now, they said Buck is still under investigation for the death of Dean. He's obviously the second black man found in his apartment in 18 months. They also opened the investigation into Jamel Moore, who was also found dead in this man's apartment in 2017. They had closed it because of the lack of evidence, but now they're trying to establish something. But look at these pictures. this is what they're doing. And then they'll say, oh, well, these are gay men. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It does not matter. But let's look at this short video, and then I'll come back for the remaining commentary.
Randy Williams is in the Los Angeles newsroom with new details on the tragic death involving Democratic political donor Ed Buck. Randy?
Yeah, Jesse. So police have now identified the man who was found dead in Ed Buck's apartment on Monday as Timothy Dean. He is the second black man to die at Buck's residence in the past 18 months. The wealthy political donor is now under investigation for both Dean's death as well as the death of Jamal Moore, who also died in Buck's apartment back in July 2017. Now, that case had been closed due to lack of evidence, but now it's been reopened. While the 2017 death was ruled an overdose, the details of Dean's death are still being investigated.
Such a sad story. Okay, Brandy, thank you.
And now, you saw that clip of the video, and it basically just said stuff that I already told you. You know, they're reopening the case. But here's a little bit more on the second victim. It says, before he was working in retail and pre-baptism, Dean was known in the gay porn industry as a dominant top named hoe hunter, okay? Now, there's an adult film database, and according to that database, Dean had been starring in gay adult films from the early of 2007 to 2016. You can best believe that was interracial porn because that is a fetish. That is a fetish niche-based porn that is very, very, very popular among white males. Okay, so they'll just sit up and fetishize black men. It says some of the films include Dark Chocolate Cravings, Black on Boys, and interracial public pickups. And the thing of it is even if you look at cuckolding porn or thug hunters porn, again, these are the same things, black men being fetishized by males within the dominant society and being smutted out, being sexually degraded, being disrespected. But again, you'll hear them constantly sit here and bring up ghetto gaggers, but they won't bring up cuckolding, they don't bring up gay porn, and they don't bring up thug hunters. They won't bring up any of that. And this is why they're not talking about this situation, because in our society, it is only okay and acceptable to point fingers at black women and scream out ghetto gaggers and white men, this, and only showing their inferiority. Because if you look at their level of porn, they are engaging in way more sexual degeneracy than black women are. Actually, if you add all this up, it would say that black men suck more white dick than black women do. And this is what confuses me, because it's like, y'all are slumming with both of them. How are you not getting anything changed for yourself in society? Obviously, this is not for all black men, because all black men are not in the porn industry. All black men don't swirl. But when we look at the black men who have this mentality where they think that they can throw shots at black women for interracial dating, although they're the pioneers of it, they've been doing it long before anyone else have done it. They've been getting laws changed so that they can do it. Their history is very, the history is all the evidence that you need. Their current interaction is all you need. Now, just like I said before, it said interracial flings were a common theme in Dean's work, with him often engaged with smaller white men who were enormous with his large stature. Okay? Now, Buck's attorney, Seymour Amster, they said that this Dean character was a longtime friend of Buck's and claimed that he had a history of substance abuse. This is a theme that they're going with. Oh, they were all drug addicts, so it shouldn't matter. And again, I would be surprised if this dude actually went to prison over any of this. I don't think that he's going to. It says, I guess the statement from his attorney said, and unfortunately in the early hours this morning, a good friend of Ed's reached out to me. Ed was reluctant to have him over, but he was insistent. He had him come over and come into his apartment. Amster told DailyMail.com on Monday, hours after the death, adding without names, Mr. Dean, that he had died inside the home. It seems the individual came over already having consumed controlled substances. There were no controlled substances ingested in the presence of Ed, nor did Ed give any to his friend. However, a neighbor who witnessed Dean arriving less than an hour before he died told Daily Mail she did not think the man was intoxicated, okay? And the thing of it is you can best believe if this goes to trial, this whole degenerate black male strung out on drugs, white men trying to help him, is going to be a theme of that discussion. The entire defense most likely will involve slandering these men's names. It said, I came out at 12:15 a.m. to walk my dogs after the Golden Globe, so I know exactly what time it was, Jackie Tepper, a Hollywood film producer, said. I hesitated thinking, oh, I don't know what they're saying, because we're so used to seeing young black men coming in and out of Ed's apartment at very odd hours. He was fine. He did not seem inebriated, she said. He wasn't stumbling. He was buzzing the building. He was on his phone. I must have seen him 45 minutes before he passed away. The prominent Democratic donor gave to Clinton and posed with former California Governor Jerry Brown, one-party Congressman Ted Lieu. He said he will return the cash Buck donated to him, but the Clinton campaign has so far said nothing. Now, the thing of it is of course, the Clinton campaign isn't going to say anything. Why would they? Because it's like, you can best believe they knew about his slumming with them. They knew about his racial sexual fetish with these men. Because there's been more information. Like, there is another article that came out saying Hillary donor is picture with skeletal homeless young black drug addict he called nigger, ordered to wear white long johns and injected with meth for $300 as cops probe to death at his home. So this is a person, this is a dude who had a racial fetish, okay? That's just the reality. And if you look at the bullet points of this article, which will go over the bulletproof, the bullet points, I'm not going to go entirely into the article, but it said Edward Buck, a Hillary Clinton donor, is being investigated by the LA County Sheriff Department over the deaths of Jamel Moore and Timothy Dean, who both overdosed at his apartment within an 18-month period. An image obtained by DailyMail.com shows Buck smoking meth with a thin, drug-addicted homeless black man in his apartment, a partner he found on the street and offered $300 to carry out his fetish request. It shows the 63-year-old wearing tidy whities and sitting beside the man he paid while they both watched porn on a television screen in the living room of the wealthy donor's West Hollywood apartment. The picture was taken in 2017 at the end of 3 years of encounters between Buck and the 30-year-old, in which the older man would call him my N-word buddy, my straight N buddy, and black boy. Now, he's acknowledging that some of these black men that he got off of the street and engaged in this behavior with were not gay. Clearly, if he's referring to him as my straight N-word buddy, then this is just some straight black dude. Mind you, they said he engaged in a 3-year on and off situation with. He's calling him his straight N-word buddy, meaning he doesn't recognize him as gay. He's not supposed to be gay. Dude probably had several relationships with women, yet he's over here slumming, getting drugged up with a white man. Basically, the dude saying he turned him out. The man, who has since died of an unrelated illness after his encounters with Buck, left a detailed account of what happened between them in a series of encounters, which he said turned him into a meth addict. DailyMail.com heard the recording in which Buck engaged in degrading sex practices, including watching the man defecate and once choke him when he refused to get out of to go out on Buck's orders. Buck had an area he called the Gates of Hell near the doorway to his apartment, where he would photograph the men he paid for sex and trawled Los Angeles Skid Row to pick up black men, calling one my crack baby. This is something that black men should be talking about, but they aren't. And they aren't because it involves black men. And so in order to discuss this, they would have to sully the reputation of black men. It doesn't matter if these men are gay. These are still black men. These are simply black men who have a sexual preference for other men, but it doesn't negate the fact that these are black men. And quiet as it's kept with all of the feminization of black men today and how emasculated they are, I would be surprised if you didn't find your everyday black men in situations like this, especially the ones who align themselves with MGTOW and express extreme hatred for women, specifically black women. It says, Buck 63 ordered the man to wear dirty white long johns and black leather effing boots
The 30-year-old took the photo in a mirror hung in front of the mattress as a part of Buck's fetish, which included making his sexual partner take Viagra, injecting drugs into his penis, and injecting him with meth while he slept. The picture was taken in 2017 at the end of a 3 years of encounter between Buck and the 30-year-old, in which the man would call him my in buddy, my straight in buddy, and black boy. It shows Buck smoking meth, wearing tidy whities, and sitting beside the man he paid, who was wearing the underwear Buck provided, while they both watch porn on a television screen. Next to him is a bottle of Gatorade, a drink which another alleged victim said Buck was spiked with GHB to get his victims high, bottles of lubricant, tissues, and a toolbox of sex toys. The image obtained by DailyMail.com offers further insight into Buck, who is now being investigated by the Los Angeles Sheriff's County Department over the death of the two men at his home. Now, if you look at these images, you will see what we're talking about, or what they're talking about. Now, it further says, a dating profile obtained by DailyMail.com shows how Buck said he was interested in blacks and was looking for masculine, slender, skinny men, and said he had a huge underwear, sports gear, mirror fetish, as well as hinting that he took drugs by injection. Buck's attorney, Seymour Amster, told DailyMail.com, I'm not going to comment on all these spurious allegations out here on individuals that we can't interview. It's too uncredible for me. When told Buck is in a photo smoking meth alongside Blake, Amster said, I have to see the photo because I've seen some photos that didn't look too accurate for me. When Daily Mail offered to send him the photo, the attorney replied, I'm not going to comment on it. I don't have time for this. You know he's not around. He can't be a witness. This is just sensationalism. And the thing of it is the pictures go on and on and on. The testimony left by the dead 30-year-old was revealed by Jasmine Koenig, a campaign manager for the Moore family, who is now running for the California State Assembly as a Democrat. She told the Daily Mail that she believed his testimony was the experience of just one of an unknown number of vulnerable men targeted by the Democratic donor. Ed Buck has been doing this for over 20-something years, so there are a lot of young men out there, she said. He's a man of privilege. He has influence and wealth, and he knew that if he chose young, black, vulnerable gay men, that nobody would care, that their lives are expendable, nobody is going to care what happens to them. And he knew in doing that, he would basically be able to get away with whatever he wanted because he had the money. One of those men targeted by Buck was Jermaine Gagnon, who told Daily Mail on Wednesday how he thought he was going to die after Buck injected him with meth. Now, we already went over, his statement and what he was saying. But the thing of it is, again, notice how you have a black woman at the forefront of a fight on behalf of black men who put themselves in these situations, who willingly engaged with this older white man so that they could slum. Because the dude said that he had fined them on Adam. So that dude was out there trolling as well on sites. And like I said, I showed you guys the data. Most of the time when black men are gay and they date out, they date white men. When they're straight and they date out, they primarily date white women. What does that tell you? That tells you no matter what the sexual preference or mind frame is of a black man, he has a deep, disturbing, detrimental level of lust for whiteness. Because had these men not had an interest in white men, they wouldn't be in this situation. Because ultimately, it's not like he was paying them loads of money. He's paying them less than the amount of a crack whore. Crack whores get paid more than these black men were getting paid. Slumming on filthy mattresses, being injected, made to wear dirty underwear, being called racially degrading names. And you'll just have a lot of black men saying, oh, well, we ain't doing nothing about that. Those are gay men. Always looking for an excuse not to step up and do anything. Always looking for an excuse for cowardice, saying, oh, well, those were gay black men. Doesn't matter, still black men. They're still black men. You cannot separate the fact that these are black men. Just because they have a preference for other men does not mean anything except that they have a sexual preference for men. but ultimately they're engaging in the same behavior that straight black men engage in. The gender of the person is just different. Rather than doing it with a white woman, they're doing it with a white man, which establishes a pathology. Because the black men who engage in relationships with white women, they're not getting anything out of it either. They're being racially degraded. They're being told that they can't acknowledge their blackness. They're being put in these situations where the woman is dominant over him, and if she chooses to engage in any type of violent behavior against him, she's probably going to get a slap on the wrist if she's charged at all. I've done numerous stories about white women in these relationships with straight black men, murdering them, degrading them, taking their money, doing exactly the same thing that white men do to them. This indicates a pathology in black men that has been going on for hundreds of years that they would like to deny. Because even when they sit up there and say, oh, some of those women on the plantation wanted to be bad wenches. Okay, well, what we do know is that men have the physical ability to overpower women, but you're a black man, you possess more physical ability than those white men, so it will be safe to conclude that you were volunteering to be plantation bucks on those plantations during slavery, during Jim Crow, up until now. But yet you're not going to see the balance among them, because the reality of it is they're only interested in degrading black women for what they choose to do, while ignoring the overwhelming overabundance, at least 10 to 1 level of degeneracy and white worship that they engage in. This is sick. It's disgusting, and it does show a pathology of black men, because like I said, whether they are interested sexually in men or women, you see the same thing. Black men getting disrespected, black men coming up harmed, black men not benefiting on a societal level or otherwise. How is it any difference between a black man being with a white woman and a black man being with a white man, except for the genders? Same thing. White women hold just as much systemic power over black men as white men do, because black men are powerless in these situations, and they will remain powerless because they're going to continue to ignore this, and things are going to continue to get worse. They're going to continue to not stick up for themselves. They're going to continue to run after these races of people who don't like them, and they'll continue to sit here and demean and disparage black women, further pushing away the only allies that they really have. And hopefully, when you hear these prominent YouTubers and popular YouTubers on here talking about, oh, black women do this, black women do that, please don't hesitate to show them their ongoing degeneracy. Don't let them try to use gay black men as a cop-out, because their interactions with white women is no different than it is with white men. And that's just the reality of it. But you guys let me know what you think. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video. I will be staying up on this story and seeing how it develops and what ultimately happens with it. I'll see you guys in the next video.